Jason Carter was an ordinary man living in the heart of Chicago. He wasn't rich, nor was he famous. In fact, most people wouldn't notice him if they passed him on the street. Jason worked as a mechanic at a small garage tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. His hands were always stained with grease, and his clothes smelled faintly of oil, no matter how much soap he used. But Jason didn't mind. He loved his job. Fixing cars gave him a sense of purpose, and it paid the bills well enough to keep food on the table and take care of his dog. MaxDOT, it was one of those typical afternoons when Jason decided to grab lunch at a little cafe near his workplace. The cafe wasn't fancy, just a cozy spot with wooden tables and chairs that wobbled slightly when you leaned on them. It served simple meals like sandwiches, soups, and coffee. Jason liked it because the food was cheap and the staff knew him by name. Dot. As he walked into the cafe, he noticed a young woman sitting alone at a corner table. She looked different from the usual crowd that frequented the place. Her clothes weren't expensive, but they were clean and neatly pressed. Her hair was tied back in a loose ponytail, and she wore no makeup. She seemed lost in thought, staring out the window as if waiting for something or someone to appear. Jason didn't think much of it at first. People came and went all the time at the cafe, and he had no reason to pay attention to her. But as he stood in line to order his meal, he couldn't help but glance over at her every now and then. Something about her caught his eye, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what it was. Maybe it was the way she held herself with quiet dignity despite looking so tired. Or maybe it was the sadness in her eyes, which seemed out of place on someone so young. When Jason reached the counter, he ordered his usual a turkey sandwich and a cup of black coffee. As he waited for his food, he saw the young woman fumbling through her wallet. She pulled out a few crumpled bills and coins, counting them carefully. Then she sighed and shook her head, clearly realizing she didn't have enough money to pay for whatever she had ordered. Jason hesitated for a moment. He wasn't the kind of person who usually got involved in other people's problems. Life had taught him to focus on his own struggles rather than trying to fix everyone else's. But there was something about this woman that made him pause. Maybe it was the way she tried to hide her embarrassment, pretending to read the menu. Again, even though she clearly knew what she wanted. Or maybe it was the fact that she looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Whatever it was, Jason felt a tug in his chest, a feeling he recognized as empathy. Without thinking too hard about it, Jason stepped up to the counter and handed the cashier a $20 bill. "Add hers to my order," he said casually, nodding toward the young woman. The cashier looked surprised, but nodded and rang up both meals. The young woman turned around sharply, startled by the sound of Jason's voice. When she realized what he had done, her cheeks flushed red with embarrassment. "Oh no," she stammered. "You didn't have to do that." "It's fine," Jason replied with a shrug. "Don't worry about it. I'll pay you back," she insisted, reaching for her wallet again. Jason shook his head. "No need. Consider it a random act of kindness." She opened her mouth to protest further, but Jason cut her off with a smile. "Really, it's okay. Just enjoy your meal." For a moment, she looked unsure of what to say. Then, finally, she whispered, "Thank you." Her voice was soft, almost hesitant, but filled with gratitude. "You're welcome," Jason said simply. He picked up his tray and found a seat a few tables away, not wanting to make her feel uncomfortable. From where he sat, he could see her picking at her food, glancing over at him occasionally, as if trying to figure out why he had helped her. Her name was Lily Harper, though Jason didn't know that yet. And while she appeared to be just another struggling individual trying to get by, she was anything but ordinary. Lily came from one of the wealthiest families in the country. Her father owned several successful businesses, and her mother was a philanthropist known for donating millions to charity. Growing up, Lily had everything money could buy: private schools, designer clothes, luxurious vacations. But none of that mattered to her anymore. That day, Lily had decided to step out of her gilded cage, hoping to experience life as an ordinary person for once. She had left her chauffeur-driven car behind and taken public transportation instead. She had dressed simply, wearing clothes she had bought from a thrift store, and she had gone to the cafe, intending to spend only the cash she carried in her pocket. But somewhere along the way, she had miscalculated how much money she had, leaving her stranded without enough to pay for her meal. Lily couldn't stop thinking about the man who had helped her. There was nothing extraordinary about him. He was average-looking, with short brown hair and a lean build. Yet there was something undeniably appealing about him. It wasn't his looks or his charm. It was his kindness. In her world, acts of generosity often came with strings attached. People gave expecting something in return, whether it was favors, loyalty, or social status. But this man, this stranger, had given selflessly, asking for nothing in return. As she finished her meal, Lily debated whether to approach him and introduce herself. But she quickly dismissed the idea. What would she say? "Hi, I'm Lily Harper, and I come from a ridiculously wealthy family?" That would ruin everything. Instead, she quietly gathered her things and left the cafe, sneaking one last glance at him before stepping out into the busy streets of Chicago. Back at his table, Jason watched her go, wondering briefly if he would ever see her again. He doubted it. After all, their encounter had been brief and insignificant. At least, that's what he told himself. Little did he know that fate had other plans. Over the next few days, Jason returned to his routine, working long hours at the garage and spending his evenings relaxing at home with Max. He thought about the young woman only once or twice, mostly when he passed by the cafe and remembered the look of relief on her face when he had paid for her meal. But he soon forgot about her entirely, dismissing the incident as just another random act of kindness. What Jason didn't realize was that Lily hadn't forgotten about him. In fact, she couldn't stop thinking about him. His simple gesture had left a lasting impression on her, reminding her of the goodness that still existed in the world. Determined to find him again, she began visiting places around the area where they had met, hoping their paths might cross once more. And so, unbeknownst to either of them, their lives were about to intertwine in ways neither could have imagined. Jason Carter's life went on as usual after the encounter at the cafe. He didn't think much about the young woman he had helped. To him, it was just a small act of kindness, a momentary decision that didn't require any further thought. Each day, he woke up early, fed his dog Max, and headed to work at the garage. His hands were busy fixing cars, tightening bolts, and changing oil filters. The smell of grease and metal filled the air, and Jason liked it that way. It reminded him of who he was, a hard-working man who took pride in what he did. At night, when he returned home, Jason relaxed by watching TV or reading books about classic cars. Sometimes he would take Max for a walk around the neighborhood, nodding politely at neighbors who passed by. Life was simple, predictable, and comfortable. He didn't need anything more, or so he thought. Meanwhile, Lily Harper couldn't stop thinking about the man who had paid for her meal. She replayed their brief interaction over and over in her mind, marveling at how effortless his kindness had been. There had been no hesitation, no expectation of reward. He had simply stepped in and helped her without asking questions. For someone like Lily, whose life was often dictated by rules, obligations, and hidden agendas, this was a rare and beautiful thing. Back at her penthouse apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, Lily found herself staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows, lost in thought. Her luxurious surroundings felt empty somehow, hollow compared to the warmth she had felt during that fleeting moment with the stranger. Money had given her everything except genuine human connection. Growing up in wealth, she had learned early on that people were drawn to her family, not because of who they were, but because of what they could offer. Friends, acquaintances, even some relatives, all seemed to have ulterior motives. But this man, this mechanic who worked with his hands and wore clothes stained with grease, had shown her something different. He had reminded her that there were still good people in the world, people who acted out of compassion rather than self-interest. And now, all she wanted was to find him again. Determined to track him down, Lily began visiting places near the cafe where they had met. She walked through parks, browsed bookstores, and lingered at coffee shops, hoping to catch a glimpse of him. At first, her efforts yielded nothing. Days turned into a week, and she started to wonder if she had imagined the whole thing if the memory of his kindness was just a figment of her imagination. Then, one afternoon, while strolling through a nearby park, Lily spotted him. Jason was sitting on a bench, eating a sandwich and tossing crumbs to a group of pigeons gathered at his feet. Max, his golden retriever, sat obediently beside him, wagging his tail whenever a bird came too close. Lily froze, unsure of what to do. Should she approach him? What would she say? Summoning her courage, she walked toward him slowly, clutching her bag tightly in her hands. "Hi," she said softly, stopping a few feet away. Jason looked up, surprised to see her. It took him a moment to recognize her as the woman from the cafe. "Oh, hey," he replied, brushing crumbs off his jeans. "It's you," Lily nodded, feeling suddenly nervous. "I've been meaning to thank you for what you did the other day." Jason shrugged, as if paying for someone's meal was the most natural thing in the world. No big deal, really. "Yes, it is," Lily insisted. "You didn't have to do that. Most people wouldn't have." "Well, I'm not most people," Jason said with a grin. Seeing her serious expression, he added, "Look, don't worry about it. Just glad I could help." They stood there awkwardly for a moment, neither sure what to say next. Finally, Lily blurted out, "Can I sit?" "Sure," Jason said, moving Max's leash aside to make room for her. "Have a seat." As Lily settled onto the bench, Jason introduced himself properly. "I'm Jason, by the way." "Lily," she replied, offering a small smile. "Nice to officially meet you." They started talking, exchanging bits and pieces of their lives. Jason told her about his job at the garage, his love for restoring old cars, and his dream of opening his own repair shop someday. Lily listened intently, fascinated by his passion and determination. In turn, she shared stories about her childhood, though she carefully avoided mentioning her family's wealth. Instead, she talked about her love for books, her fascination with art, and her desire to travel the world. The conversation flowed easily between them, and before either realized it, hours had passed. When Lily finally glanced at her watch, she gasped. "I didn't realize it was so late. I should go." Jason stood up, brushing crumbs off his shirt. "Yeah, me too. Gotta get back to work." As they parted ways, Lily felt a strange sense of excitement bubbling inside her. She hadn't expected to enjoy their conversation so much, or to feel such a strong connection with someone she barely knew. For the first time in years, she felt truly seen, as if Jason understood her in a way others never had. Over the next few weeks, their paths crossed several times at the cafe, at the park, even at a bookstore where Lily had gone to buy a novel. Each meeting felt like a gift, a chance to learn more about each other. Jason admired Lily's intelligence and curiosity, while Lily appreciated Jason's honesty and humor. They laughed together, debated silly topics, and discovered shared interests, like their mutual love for classic movies. Despite their growing bond, Lily still wrestled with guilt over keeping her true identity hidden. She hated lying by omission, but she feared that revealing the truth might change how Jason saw her. Would he treat her differently if he knew she came from money? Would he think she was using him or trying to impress him? These doubts gnawed at her, making her question whether she should tell him the truth. One evening, as they sat together at the cafe sipping coffee, Lily decided to test the waters. "Jason," she began hesitantly, "do you ever wonder why I haven't told you much about my family?" Jason raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Not really. Everyone has their reasons for sharing or not sharing stuff. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine with me. But what if it's important?" Lily pressed, twisting her napkin nervously. "What if knowing my background changes how you see me?" Jason leaned back in his chair, studying her face. "Lily, listen. Whatever your background is, it doesn't matter to me. What matters is who you are right now, the person sitting across from me. That's the only thing I care about." His words eased some of Lily's anxiety, but they also made her realize how unfair it was to keep hiding such a big part of herself. She knew she couldn't continue like this forever. Sooner or later, she would have to come clean, and when she did, she hoped Jason would understand. For now, though, they continued enjoying each other's company, building a friendship that felt stronger and deeper with every passing day. Neither of them could have predicted where this connection would lead, but deep down, both sensed that something extraordinary was beginning to unfold. Jason Carter's life was changing, though he didn't fully realize it yet. His days still revolved around the garage fixing cars, chatting with coworkers, and dreaming about opening his own repair shop someday. But something new had entered. His routine, Lily Harper. Since their chance meeting at the cafe, she had become a constant presence in his life. They ran into each other often at the park, at the bookstore, even at a small art gallery where Jason had gone to escape the LA. Rain one afternoon. Each encounter felt like a gift, filling his days with laughter, curiosity, and a sense of connection he hadn't felt before. Lily, too, found herself looking forward to these moments. She had grown used to living in two worlds, one filled with wealth and privilege, the other marked by simplicity and authenticity. Being with Jason allowed her to step away from the pressures of her family's expectations and just be herself. He didn't care about fancy clothes or expensive hobbies. All he cared about was who she was as a person. And for Lily, that was refreshing and terrifying. The more time she spent with him, the harder it became to keep her secret. One rainy evening, after closing hours at the garage, Jason decided to stop by the cafe for dinner before heading home. It had been a long day, and he craved comfort food, a warm sandwich, and a cup of coffee. As he walked in, shaking droplets from his jacket, he spotted Lily sitting alone at a corner table. She was reading a book, her hair slightly damp from the rain, and sipping a steaming mug of tea. For a moment, Jason hesitated, unsure if he should interrupt her. But then she looked up and saw him, her face lighting up with a smile. "Hey," she said, waving him over. "I was wondering if you'd show up here tonight." Jason chuckled as he approached. "You were waiting for me?" "Not exactly," Lily admitted, "but I hoped you might come. I wanted to talk to you." That caught Jason's attention. He ordered his meal and joined her at the table, Max settling comfortably under his chair. "What's up?" he asked, noticing the seriousness in her tone. Lily took a deep breath, fiddling with the handle of her mug. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Jason frowned, suddenly worried. "Is everything okay?" "Yes and no," Lily said slowly. "It's complicated." She paused, searching for the right words. Jason waited patiently, sensing that whatever she was about to say was important. Finally, Lily spoke. "The truth is, I'm not who you think I am. My family, they're Well, we're wealthy. Very wealthy. Jason blinked, processing what she had just said. You mean, like, rich people wealthy? Lily nodded, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. Yeah, my dad owns several businesses, and my mom's involved in charities. We live in a penthouse downtown, and our lives are different from yours. From most people's. For a moment, Jason didn't know how to respond. He stared at her, trying to reconcile this revelation with the woman sitting across from him. The same woman who loved books, laughed at his jokes, and seemed so down to earth. Why didn't you tell me sooner? He asked finally. I was scared, Lily admitted. Scared that you'd treat me differently. That you'd think I was pretending to be someone I'm not. Or worse, that you'd assume I only wanted to be friends because of what I could offer. Jason leaned back in his chair, thinking carefully before responding. Lily, listen, I don't care about your money. If anything, it makes me admire you even more for stepping out of that world and being real with me. You've never acted like you're better than anyone else, and that says a lot about who you are. Relief washed over Lily's face, but she still looked uncertain. Are you sure? Because I understand if this changes things between us. It doesn't, Jason said firmly. Not for me. What matters is how you treat people, and you've always been kind and genuine. That's what I value, not your bank account. Lily smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. Thank you. You have no idea how much that means to me. They sat there for a while longer, talking about everything and nothing. Jason asked questions about her life, what it was. Like growing up with wealth, how she coped with the pressure, and whether she enjoyed the privileges that came with it. Lily answered honestly, sharing stories about her childhood and the loneliness that often accompanied her luxurious lifestyle. In turn, Jason opened up about his dreams, his struggles, and the simple joys that made his life meaningful. By the time they left the cafe, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets glistening under the glow of streetlights. Walking side by side, Lily turned to Jason and said, I want to show you something. Will you come with me tomorrow evening? Curious, Jason nodded. Sure, what is it? You'll see, Lily replied with a mysterious smile. Just trust me. The next evening, Lily picked Jason up in a sleek black car driven by a chauffeur. Jason raised an eyebrow when he saw it, but Lily waved off his concern. Don't worry, it's just for today. Normally, I prefer walking or taking public transport. As they drove through the city, Jason marveled at the contrast between Lily's world and his own. The car glided smoothly past towering skyscrapers, elegant boutiques, and upscale restaurants. Eventually, they arrived at a grand hotel where a charity gala was being held. Guests dressed in designer suits and gowns mingled in the lobby, sipping champagne and exchanging polite conversation. This is where you wanted to take me? Jason asked, feeling out of place in his jeans and leather jacket. Yes, Lily said, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. But don't worry, you look perfect just the way you are. This isn't about impressing anyone. It's about showing you another side of my life. Inside, Lily introduced Jason to everyone she met, proudly referring to him as a dear friend. Some guests eyed him curiously, whispering behind their hands, but Lily ignored them, focusing instead on making him feel welcome. She explained the purpose of the event, to raise funds for underprivileged children and encourage Jason to mingle. Despite his initial discomfort, Jason found himself enjoying the evening. Many of the guests were genuinely interested in his work as a mechanic, asking questions about restoring classic cars and sharing stories of their own automotive adventures. One man even offered to connect him with potential clients who might be interested in his services. As the night wore on, Lily and Jason stepped out onto a balcony overlooking the city skyline. The air was cool, and the lights at Chicago twinkled, like stars below them. Lily leaned against the railing, watching Jason closely. "What do you think?" she asked softly. "It's overwhelming," Jason admitted, "but also kind of amazing. Seeing your world, it's like stepping into a movie." Lily laughed. "Sometimes it feels that way to me, too." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, soaking in the view. Then Lily turned to Jason, her expression serious. "I need to ask you something." "Anything," Jason replied. "If I weren't rich, if I were just an ordinary person, would you still want to spend time with me?" Jason didn't hesitate. "Of course. Money doesn't change who you are. You're smart, funny, and kind. Those are the things that matter to me." Lily's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled through them. "Thank you. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that." In that moment, standing under the vast Chicago sky, Jason realized something important. He was falling for Lily, not because of her wealth or status, but because of the person she was. And judging by the way she looked at him, he suspected she felt the same way. Their journey was far from over, but one thing was certain. Together, they had begun building something special, a bond, rooted in honesty, respect, and mutual admiration. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side. The days following the charity gala were a whirlwind for both Jason and Lily. Their friendship had deepened significantly, but now they faced new challenges as their relationship stepped into uncharted territory. For Jason, life continued much. The same. He worked at the garage, spent time with Max, and occasionally hung out with friends at local bars. But thoughts of Lily lingered in his mind more often than not. He replayed their conversations, remembered her laughter, and thought about how easy it felt to be around her despite their vastly different worlds. For Lily, things were more complicated. After revealing her true identity to Jason, she had expected some level of judgment or awkwardness between them. Instead, he had accepted her without hesitation, treating her exactly the same as before. That acceptance meant everything to her, but it also brought its own set of worries. She knew that sooner or later, their connection would attract attention, and not all of it would be positive. Word of their budding relationship began to spread faster than either of them anticipated. Reporters started showing up outside Lily's penthouse, snapping photos whenever she left the building. Tabloids ran headlines like "Millionaire Heiress," spotted with blue-collar mechanic, and speculated endlessly about whether their romance was real or just a publicity stunt. Friends and acquaintances from Lily's world whispered behind closed doors, questioning Jason's intentions. Some accused him of being a gold digger, while others dismissed him outright, assuming he couldn't possibly fit into Lily's glamorous lifestyle. Jason noticed the change almost immediately. Strangers stared at him when he walked through the streets, pointing and whispering. One day, as he was leaving the garage, a photographer approached him, shoving a camera in his face. "Are you dating Lily Harper?" the man demanded. "What's your angle? What do you want from her?" Jason blinked, taken aback by the intrusion. "I don't know what you're talking about," he muttered, brushing past the man and hurrying home. That night, Lily called him, her voice filled with concern. "Have you seen the news?" she asked. "Yeah," Jason replied, rubbing his temples. "It's everywhere." "I'm so sorry," Lily said softly. "I didn't think this would happen so fast. I should have warned you." "It's not your fault," Jason assured her. "But is this going to keep happening? Because I'm not sure I can handle being hounded like this every day." Lily hesitated, unsure how to respond. She wanted to promise him that everything would calm down eventually, but she knew better. The media loved stories like theirs, a rich girl falling for an ordinary guy. It made for great gossip, and they wouldn't stop until they got bored or found something juicier to chase. "Maybe we should lay low for a while," Lily suggested. Stay away from public places where people might recognize us. That's not really my style, Jason admitted. I don't want to hide who I am or who we are to make other people happy. Lily sighed, feeling torn. On one hand, she admired Jason's determination to live authentically. On the other hand, she worried about the toll the scrutiny might take on him and on the relationship. I just don't want you to get hurt because of me, she confessed. You won't, Jason said firmly. We'll figure this out together, okay? Despite the growing attention, Jason and Lily refused to let it drive them apart. They continued meeting in quieter, less conspicuous places, small parks, hidden corners of libraries, and late-night diners where no one bothered them. These moments became precious to both of them, offering a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. One evening, as they sat together on a bench overlooking Lake Michigan, Lily turned to Jason and said, I need to tell you something. Jason looked at her, sensing the gravity in her tone. What is it? My parents know about us, Lily admitted. They've been asking questions. Jason frowned. And they're skeptical, Lily said carefully. They're worried about our differences, about whether we're compatible long-term. Jason nodded, understanding the concerns, but refusing to let them shake his confidence. Do you agree with them? No, Lily said quickly. Not at all. I care about you, Jason, more than I ever thought possible, but I know they'll try to convince me otherwise. And I need to know that you're willing to fight. For us, if it comes to that. Jason reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. I'm not going anywhere, Lily. Not unless you decide you don't want me anymore. Lily smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. I do want you, always. As the weeks went by, Lily's family became increasingly vocal about their disapproval. Her father, a stern man with a booming voice, sat her down one afternoon and said, Lily, you need to think carefully about this. This isn't just about love, it's about your future. Do you really believe someone like him can provide the kind of life you're used to? Lily bristled at the implication. Dad, happiness isn't about money. It's about finding someone who makes you feel valued and understood. Jason does that for me. Her mother took a gentler approach, inviting Lily to tea and speaking softly. We only want what's best for you, sweetheart. Sometimes love isn't enough. You have to consider practicalities too. I understand that, Lily replied. But Jason works hard. He has dreams. He's building a future for himself, even if it doesn't look like ours. Her parents' objections weighed heavily on Lily, but she refused to give in. She believed in Jason, not because of what he could offer materially, but because of the person he was. His kindness, integrity, and unwavering support meant more to her than any amount of wealth ever could. Meanwhile, Jason faced his own struggles. Some of his coworkers teased him about dating a millionaire, calling him Prince Charming and joking that he'd soon be living in luxury. Others questioned his motives, wondering aloud if he was using Lily for her money. At first, Jason laughed it off, but the constant ribbing began to wear on him. One night, after a particularly rough day at work, Jason confided in Lily over the phone. Sometimes, I wonder if I'm doing the right thing, he admitted. People keep saying, I'm crazy to stick around, that I'll never measure up to your world. You don't have to measure up to anything, Lily said fiercely. You're perfect just the way you are. Don't listen to what anyone else says, they don't know us. But what if they're right? Jason pressed. What if I can't give you the life you deserve? You already are, Lily replied. Every time you smile at me, every time you listen to me, every time you remind me that I'm more than my last name, you're giving me exactly what I need. Her words reassured Jason, but they also made him realize how much he truly cared for her. He wasn't just fighting for their relationship. He was fighting for her, for the chance to show her that love transcended wealth and status. Amidst the challenges, small victories kept them hopeful. Jason introduced Lily to his closest friends, who welcomed her warmly. They bonded over board games, shared meals, and long conversations about life. Seeing Jason surrounded by people who genuinely cared about him gave Lily a deeper appreciation for his world, and reminded her that happiness came in many forms. In return, Lily invited Jason to spend more time in her world, introducing him to art galleries, concerts, and quiet dinners at high-end restaurants. Though Jason still felt out of place among the glitz and glamour, he appreciated the effort Lily made to include him. More importantly, he saw how she tried to bridge the gap between their lives, proving that their differences didn't have to divide them. By the end of the month, Jason and Lily had weathered countless storms together. Public opinion remained divided, and Lily's family continued to express doubts. But neither of them wavered in their commitment to each other. They knew their journey wouldn't always be easy, but they also knew that love, trust, and mutual respect could overcome any obstacle. As they stood together on the balcony of Lily's penthouse one evening, watching the city lights twinkle below, Jason turned to her and said, "You know, I never imagined my life turning out like this, but I wouldn't trade it for anything." "Me neither," Lily replied, leaning her head against his shoulder. "Whatever happens next, we'll face it together." And in that moment, surrounded by uncertainty, yet grounded in their bond, they found strength in each other and hope for the future. Jason and Lily's relationship continued to grow stronger, even as the world around them seemed determined to pull them apart. The media frenzy had died down a little, but whispers about their romance still lingered in the background. Friends, family, and strangers alike couldn't help but speculate about whether their love could withstand the pressures of their vastly different lives. Yet through it all, Jason and Lily held on to each other, drawing strength from the bond they had built. One crisp autumn morning, Jason arrived at work, feeling unusually restless. He had been thinking a lot lately, not just about his growing feelings for Lily, but also about his future. For years, he had dreamed of opening his own repair shop, a place where he could restore classic cars and share his passion with others. But with everything happening in his personal life, those dreams had taken a back seat. Now, as he tightened bolts and changed oil filters at the garage, he found himself wondering if it was time to take a leap of faith. That evening, after finishing his shift, Jason stopped by the cafe where he and Lily had first met. It had become a kind of tradition for them to meet there whenever they wanted to talk about something important. As he waited for her, he stared out the window, watching leaves swirl in the wind. When Lily finally walked in, bundled up in a scarf and coat, her face lit up at the sight of him. "Hey," she said, sliding into the booth across from him. "You look like you've got something on your mind." "I do," Jason admitted. "I wanted to talk to you about, well, my dreams." Lily tilted her head, intrigued. "Your dreams?" "Yeah," Jason said, leaning forward. "You know how I've always talked about wanting to open my own repair shop? A place where I can work on classic cars, and maybe even teach people about restoring them?" Lily nodded. "Of course. That sounds amazing. Well, I've been thinking it's time I actually did something about it. I can't keep putting it off forever." "That's great," Lily exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "What's stopping you?" "Money, mostly," Jason admitted. "Starting a business isn't cheap. I'd need a loan, equipment, space. It's a lot to handle." Lily hesitated for a moment and spoke softly. "If you need help, I'd be happy to support you. Financially, I mean." Jason shook his head immediately. "No, Lily, I appreciate the offer, but I want to do this on my own. I don't want anyone saying I'm using you or relying on your money." "I understand," Lily said gently. "But what if I could help in a way that doesn't feel like charity?" What if we work together to make it happen? Jason frowned, unsure of what she meant. Like how? Lily leaned back in her seat, thinking carefully before responding. What if I invested in your business, not as a gift, but as a partnership? You'd run the shop, make all the decisions, and handle the day-to-day operations. I'd just provide the initial funding like any investor would. That way, it's still your dream, but you'd have the resources to make it real. Jason considered her words, weighing the pros and cons. On one hand, accepting Lily's help felt risky. It could fuel rumors and reinforce doubts about his intentions. On the other hand, it could give him the opportunity to build something meaningful, something he could be proud of. After a long pause, he looked at her and said, "Let me think about it, okay? I need to make sure this is the right decision for both of us." Lily smiled warmly. "Take all the time you need. Just know that I believe in you, Jason. Whatever you decide, I'll stand by you." Over the next few weeks, Jason wrestled with the idea of accepting Lily's offer. He talked to his closest friends, seeking their advice. Some encouraged him to take the chance, pointing out that it wasn't charity if it was a fair business arrangement. Others warned him to be cautious, reminding him of the potential backlash. Meanwhile, Lily gave him space, respecting his need to figure things out on his own. She continued supporting him in small ways, bringing him coffee during long shifts at the garage, listening patiently when he vented about challenges at work, and cheering him on whenever he mentioned his dream. Her unwavering belief in him made Jason realize just how much she cared, and how much he wanted to prove himself worthy of her trust. Finally, after countless sleepless nights and endless conversations with himself, Jason made up his mind. One evening, as they sat together on a park bench under a canopy of golden leaves, he turned to Lily and said, "I've thought about it, and I'm ready to move forward with your help." Lily's face broke into a wide smile. "Are you sure?" "Yes," Jason replied firmly. "Not because I need your money, but because I trust you. And because I know this is something we can build together." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes as she hugged him tightly. "Thank you for trusting me, Jason. I promise we'll do this the right way." With Lily's support, Jason began laying the groundwork for his repair shop. They spent hours researching locations, drafting business plans, and meeting with accountants and lawyers to ensure everything was done properly. Lily handled the financial side, investing wisely and setting up safeguards to protect Jason's independence. In return, Jason poured his heart and soul into designing the space, choosing tools, and planning services that would set his shop apart. As the months passed, their hard work paid off. Jason's repair shop named Carter Classics opened its doors to the public on a bright spring morning. The interior was warm and inviting, with posters of vintage cars lining the walls and the scent of fresh paint lingering in the air. Customers trickled in slowly at first, curious to see what the new mechanic in town had to offer. But word quickly spread about Jason's skill and dedication, and soon the shop became a local favorite. Lily visited often, bringing snacks for Jason and his team, chatting with customers, and helping out wherever she could. She loved seeing Jason thrive, watching him transform his dream into reality. More importantly, she loved the way he glowed with pride every time someone praised his work. Despite their success, challenges still arose. Reporters occasionally showed up, asking intrusive questions about their partnership and speculating about whether Lily's involvement undermined Jason's credibility. Some customers assumed Jason relied entirely on Lily's wealth, dismissing his talent and effort. But Jason refused to let negativity bring him down. Instead, he focused on proving himself through his work, earning respect one satisfied customer at a time. Through it all, Lily stood by him, defending their partnership and celebrating his achievements. Together, they faced criticism with grace and determination, showing the world that their love and collaboration were built on mutual respect and shared goals. One evening, after closing up the shop, Jason and Lily sat together on the hood of an old convertible they had recently restored. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Jason glanced at Lily, his heart swelling with gratitude. "You know," he said softly, "none of this would have been possible without you." Lily shook her head, smiling. "Don't say that. This is all you, Jason. I just helped clear the path." "No," Jason insisted. "You did more than that. You believed in me when no one else did, including myself. You reminded me that I'm capable of achieving my dreams, no matter how impossible they seem." Lily reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. "We're a team, Jason, always have. Been, always will be." They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars appear one by one in the darkening sky. Jason felt a sense of peace wash over him, a quiet certainty that he and Lily could overcome anything as long as they stayed together. Then, almost impulsively, Jason turned to her and said, "There's something I've been meaning to ask you." Lily raised an eyebrow, curious. "What is it?" Jason took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. "I love you, Lily, more than I ever thought possible. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Lily simply stared at him, stunned. Then tears filled her eyes as she nodded vigorously. "Yes," she whispered, "1,000 times yes." Jason slid a simple silver ring onto her finger, the one he had saved months to buy. It wasn't flashy or expensive, but it symbolized everything their relationship stood for: love, trust, and the beauty of simplicity. As they embraced, surrounded by the hum of engines and the faint scent of motor oil, Jason and Lily knew they had found something rare and precious. Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had taught them that true love transcended wealth and status, thriving instead on honesty, respect, and the courage to follow their hearts. And as they looked toward the future, hand in hand, they felt ready to face whatever came next together. The weeks leading up to Jason and Lily's wedding were a whirlwind of planning, excitement, and nerves. They wanted the day to be special, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had supported them along the way. Yet they also knew that their relationship had faced enough scrutiny already, so they decided to keep things simple and intimate. Instead of a grand ceremony in a lavish ballroom, they chose a small outdoor venue by Lake Michigan, where the water sparkled under the sunlight and the air carried the scent of fresh grass. Jason spent his days balancing work at Carter Classics with last-minute preparations for the wedding. His shop had become a cornerstone of the community, earning him respect and admiration from customers and fellow mechanics alike. People often joked that he was living a fairy tale marrying a millionaire while building his dream business, but Jason didn't see it that way. To him, success wasn't about money or status. It was about doing what he loved and sharing his life with someone who truly understood him. Lily, meanwhile, juggled her responsibilities as an investor and philanthropist with the joys of preparing for married life. She worked closely with Jason on finalizing details for the big day, ensuring everything reflected their shared values of simplicity and authenticity. While some of her friends urged her to splurge on designer dresses and extravagant decorations, Lily insisted on keeping things grounded. Her happiness came not from material wealth, but from the love she shared with Jason, and she wanted their wedding to reflect that. On the morning of the wedding, Jason woke up early, too excited to sleep. He stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for what felt like the 100th time. Max, his loyal golden retriever, sat at his feet, wagging his tail as if sensing the significance of the day. "Today's the day, buddy," Jason said, scratching Max behind the ears. "I'm going to marry the best person I've ever met." At Lily's penthouse apartment, she was equally nervous, but glowing with anticipation. surrounded by close friends and family. She slipped into a simple white dress that hugged her figure elegantly without being over the top. Her hair was tied back in loose waves, and she wore minimal makeup, letting her natural beauty shine through. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself, not because of how she looked, but because of how she felt. For the first time in her life, she was completely content that the ceremony took place under a canopy of trees near the lake, with soft music playing in the background. Guests included Jason's coworkers, friends, and neighbors, as well as a select group of Lily's relatives and close acquaintances. The atmosphere was warm and welcoming, filled with laughter and heartfelt conversations. It was clear to everyone present that this union was built on genuine love and mutual respect, not societal expectations or superficial appearances. Jason saw Lily walking down the aisle, escorted by her father, his breath caught in his throat. She looked radiant, her smile lighting up the entire space. As she approached him, he whispered, "You're beautiful." "So are you," she replied softly, her eyes glistening with tears. The vows they exchanged were simple yet profound, capturing the essence of their journey together. Jason promised to always support Lily, to cherish her dreams as much as his own, and to remind her every day of how extraordinary she was. Lily vowed to stand by Jason through thick and thin, to celebrate his successes, and to never let anyone diminish his accomplishments. Their words resonated deeply with the guests, many of whom wiped away tears as they listened. After the ceremony, the reception was a lively affair, complete with good food, dancing, and heartfelt speeches. One of Jason's closest friends raised a glass and said, "Jason isn't just my friend, he's one of the most genuine people I know. And Lily, you couldn't have picked a better match for him. Together, you prove that love knows no boundaries." Lily's mother followed with a toast of her own, acknowledging how far they had come. When Lily first told us about Jason, I'll admit I had doubts. But seeing them today, I realize how wrong I was. Love like this is rare, and I'm grateful to witness it. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the gathering, Jason and Lily stole quiet moments together, soaking in the magic of the day. They danced under the stars, laughed at inside jokes, and thanked each guest personally for being part of their journey. By the end of the night, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that these two belonged together. In the months that followed, Jason and Lily settled into married life, blending their worlds seamlessly. Jason continued running Carter Classics, expanding its services and hiring additional staff to keep up with growing demand. Lily remained involved in philanthropy, using her resources to support causes close to her heart, such as education for underprivileged children and environmental conservation. Together, they found ways to give back to the community, hosting charity events at the shop and encouraging others to pursue their passions. Their relationship wasn't without challenges. They still encountered skeptics who questioned whether their love could endure the test of time. But Jason and Lily faced those doubts head-on, proving again and again that their bond was unshakable. They leaned on each other during tough times, celebrated victories together, and never lost sight of why they had fallen in love in the first place. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their new home, a cozy house nestled between the city and the lake, Jason turned to Lily and said, "Do you remember that day at the cafe when I paid for your meal?" Lily smiled, nodding. "How could I forget? That was the moment everything changed." "I didn't know it then," Jason admitted, "but meeting you was the best thing that ever happened to me. You taught me that kindness can change lives, including my own. And you taught me that love doesn't care about bank accounts or social status," Lily added. "It cares about who we are deep down." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the lights of the city twinkle in the distance. Despite coming from different worlds, They had created a life together that was rich in meaning, purpose, and joy. Their story was proof that when two people share a connection rooted in honesty and compassion, nothing, not wealth, not judgment, not fear, can tear them apart. And as they looked toward the future, hand in hand, Jason and Lily knew they were ready for whatever lay ahead. Together, they had built something extraordinary, a partnership founded on trust, respect, and the belief that love conquers all.